turned out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Ryan.
Happy gray morning here in LA. You sounded like a robot.
I am a talking computer.
Great. We're joined by Timbot today. And we welcome, whether you're a robot or human, we welcome robots and humans alike. So thank you for being here. Where are we? Hello, everyone. This is episode 136 of Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself and...
Yourself what? Yourself what? You just said yourself. You didn't say who you were.
You're right. We've been on a few-week hiatus. Let's do this again. Myself, Ryan McDuffie, and...
Myself. Period. Tim Aslan. The robot version 3.7.
Yeah, when I was talking and forgot to say my name, I just kept thinking Timbot, just Tim Robots. Just it's all in my head now. You're psyching me out,
what are you
Timbot.
I'd say it's early, but it's not.
Right. We have had a time change that's always messes us up. It's like bright late now. It's weird. Anyway,
I had a time change while I was in another time zone. That really messed me up.
Right. Well,
God.
we're all which ways as we all are anyways. But Dismembering Horror, thanks for being here. We talk about what worked for us, what did not work about us. What did not work for us? We actually do talk about what doesn't work about us. And anything else that we found interesting or noteworthy.
We are off to a great start.
Right. About a horror film or us or whatever, or you if we knew you. Anyways, thanks for being here. Today, we're going to be talking about Full Circle, a.k.a. The Haunting of Julia, a.k.a. Julia from 1977, 1978, and 1981.
What is going on?
Right. So here's the skinny on that.
Jesus.
It was originally released as Full Circle at the Sebastian International Film Festival in 1977, then released theatrically in England and Canada in May 78. Then it was unreleased in the United States until May of 1981. And then that's when it got its name changed to The Haunting of Julia along the way. And then Julia is the name of the Peter Straub novel it's based on.
Yeah, I was trying to look this up. Why does Peter Straub sound so familiar?
Okay, well, because you've probably read Ghost Story, I'm guessing, or maybe not.
I know of it, but I don't think I've read it. I know of the movie version of it. It's got Fred Astaire.
So I haven't seen that.
But I don't think I've ever watched it.
So yeah, Peter Straub, he's buddies with Stephen King, and kind of Ghost Story is the one that put him on the map. But Julia was his book. This movie is based on that he wrote before it. I feel bad. I didn't finish it, but I guess it didn't grab me enough. But it was pretty cool. I started reading The Talisman, which he co-wrote with Stephen King.
Heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that.
And that's coming out as a show now. So
is it?
Him and Stephen King co-wrote that.
All right, so who directed this film version?
Right. And then for the rest of the credits for this film version, it was directed by Richard Loncraine with a story adaptation by Harry Bromley Davenport, a screenplay by Dave Humphries, and as I said, based on Julia by Peter Straub.
God, that just sounds so British.
Right. Like the names of the story adapter and the screenplay writer together. Harry Bromley Davenport, Dave Humphries. Like,
yeah, they love waistcoats.
Yeah, they do. Great. All right, Tim. Well, anything else before we jump into our little trailer here?
Nah.
All right. And it is.
Are we okay? Have we settled in?
I mean, we're just here. We're rolling with it.
Yeah.
We're just riding the wave. You're here with us.
Oh, what a wave it is.
And it'll be fun because this is here we get to play the full trailer today because it is just 30 seconds long. So here we go. Way from 1977 back then. A little mini trailer. Here you go for Full Circle, aka The Haunting of Julia.
The eyes of a child. Full circle. Full circle. A haunting tale of terror you will never forget.
A haunting tale of terror you will never forget. That's right, folks. Which is ironic because I did talk to a friend who said he's seen this, and he said, I don't really remember it, but...
I watched it last night, and I don't remember it.
Ditto, Tim. Listeners, thanks for bearing with us for this one. This one was pretty hard to follow for me.
It was rough.
Yeah, I could really use a Tim Fresher, a Tim summary.
Oh, God. Okay.
But we got to rate it first, so...
Oh, okay, yeah.
We were kind of already on the... Damn.
I really am. I could not stay connected to this in any way. I mean, I felt like even though I wasn't falling asleep, I might as well have been. Like, my brain just was somewhere else. Every time I tried to, like, lock in and pay attention, I was like, who cares? Yeah,
it's... For me, I give it a stream it only because of Mia Farrow. Like, just... But I shouldn't say just because of her. I should say the completionist in me and because of her.
Like, yeah, I get you.
I've had my share of avoids for sure, and I'm with you on how bored and just not paying attention. I was trying to, but it just kept.
Yeah, I tried to too. I kept being like, you have to like focus.
And here's where I also want to give it a little more leniency. Like, it's not available. Like, I rented it on YouTube, which if you're trying to do. Listeners, maybe not if we just told you to avoid it. Tim told you to avoid it. But it was on YouTube on my desktop as Julia, but nowhere to be found for renting on YouTube on Roku. So I rented it off of my browser, and then on my YouTube account on my Roku, I could only bring it up then. But anyway, sorry, so that's a little aside, but point being that it does not have a good remaster or anything like that. It looks and sounds terrible.
I rented the quote unquote HD rental from Amazon Prime, and it was so the furthest thing from an HD anything.
Well, no,
it's brutal.
It's an HD version of a horrible, like, non-mastered print or whatever, non-restored print.
Right, exactly.
It's
I mean, the sound was off. Like, it was rough.
There's this whole like must have been like the fourth or fifth reel around there. I'm talking. It's not common to use those terms, but it's just so apparent. It looks like you're watching just a film projected on a sheet or something.
Yeah,
that I put it in those terms. But like around there in the film, there's this sound in the background that sounded like it was almost supposed to be an effect. It's like it just kept coming in and out, but it was something shoddy about it. But there's apparently a little bit of a fight to get this remastered or released. It's some nicer version. Anyway, all is to say, I want to give it a little forgiveness because, like, maybe it was just the quality that was that distracting and that, like, was preventing me from getting into it as much as I could have.
Unless this edit has cut things to make the movie make more sense or, like, be a little more connected to something, I don't give any lenience. If that's true, if this is sort of like even almost like a made for TV, chop up, I could be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's remaster the original edit and like see what it's worth. But if that's not the case, I'm still like that.
Yeah, I get that. For me, I gotta like know how if I probably missed lines and just like kind of like in math class, like in high school or whatever, I miss one, premise or lesson. I'm just like, nothing makes sense at all. Like, well,
yeah.
So like with
I do know because I'm pretty sure that I had the flu for the week that we covered grammar, like nouns and verbs and stuff like that, because until I was in my like mid-20s did I really sit down and go, you have to understand the difference between it, like be able to identify a noun if somebody asks you. But up to that point, I was like, I don't know. I still like, if somebody's like, what's the like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I do know these things now, so it's hard to think of one. But if somebody in my mid-20s is like, what's a adverb? I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know what a fucking adverb
So
is.
in terms of this movie, it was like, okay, so Julia's visiting Joffrey's mother, Greta, and then she's also visiting this person who's this person's daughter. Wait, no, so it's Heather's daughter who died, and okay, it was just like that. And
It
like,
was.
she saw an article that led to this, and what? Who is this person? It was just.
It's yeah. Okay, so before we just shit on it, because I try not to.
All right, avoid in a stream. Here we go.
Avoid in a stream. Here's what happens. Julia's daughter dies. And look, let's be honest. Dr. Heimlich invented the Heimlich maneuver in 1974, and this movie was made in 1977. I blame, Britain at large for not disseminating the knowledge of Dr. Heimlich onto their citizens, because this whole movie would not exist if Julia knew how to give the Heimlich maneuver.
But the novel was released in 75, so it was
Son of a bitch!
cuts it a little close there. Sorry.
Okay,
Tim.
fair. Just right on the edge. If he had just waited one more year. So Julia's daughter chokes to death in her arms. That sucks. And it really hits her hard.
Well,
to
it's
be expected.
Also, because Kate's the daughter. Julia, our hero, Mia Farrow, she tried to dislodge it to perform a tracheectomy. She pulled out the knife.
Yeah.
So
which is ballsy.
So we sort of are like, oh, maybe we like her are kind of wrestling with her possible guilt, and like maybe she confirmed or saw her death through in a way.
Yeah, that's true. But this, obviously creates a bit of a divide between her and her husband, Magnus, right?
Yep.
Jesus.
Played by Keir Dullea from 2001 Space Odyssey fame.
God, okay. I thought he looked familiar. Okay, so Julia, she really like it hits her hard, to be expected, and she decides she needs to like not engage with Magnus anymore for any number of reasons. She gets her own new flat, which is in I guess you'd call it sort of a townhouse, right? It's pretty cool. It's like a brownstone. It's nice. And it's fully furnished and whatever. And she starts to feel creepy vibes in it, which is fun, sort of. And let's see. God, what happens? I guess she feels like there's a presence there, and so she gets some friends over to have a little seance. That goes weird. One of them falls down the stairs and gets injured. So stuff's happening, sort of. And then this sort of, the seance gets Julia on this journey to figure out really, I guess, who the spirit of the medium says there's a little child here. She saw a little child, and Julia assumes that's the ghost of her daughter. But it sort of puts her on this track to track down the mystery. Yeah. I guess it's pretty vague, but all in all, what it is She finds out that a German boy who lived in that house prior, like 30 years ago, had been murdered by the neighborhood kids. And in particular, the ringleader of the neighborhood kids that sort of spurred this on was a little girl. And
Olivia.
Olivia, thank you. But Olivia was also murdered after the fact by someone who killed her. I can't even remember. It's so convoluted.
No, that's Olivia's mother, Heather, is the one at the end in the psychiatrist's home.
Right.
And
she that's right. She killed her own daughter.
Yeah.
Got it. That's why that's why it's called Full Circle, Ryan.
We just came full circle.
We came full circle. We just came full circle because Julia maybe killed her own daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But not on purpose.
Tim is switching his rating to a buy it.
No, I'm not.
Full circle.
I can't believe it. So that's the story. But the thing is that like through all of that, there's stuff like she goes on her little detective thing. She goes to a library and looks at what's that thing called? The
thing. We know what you're trying to say.
The thing in every movie when they go to a library.
We know.
She looks at an article and she tracks a person down, and that person says this other person, and that she goes to that person. That everybody's an asshole to her. Really, what this whole movie basically is to me is majority just a bunch of men being really mean to her and being like, "You're crazy,"
and then they die.
So cool. The end.
Great.
And then she dies. Inexplicably.
What's that last scene for you?
Who knows?
Well, I mean,
who knows? She's sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
She sees her daughter.
I think it was
is it Olivia?
Olivia.
I was confused.
I think she sees Olivia.
Okay, so she sees Olivia, who we know is the spirit who's been haunting the flat, who is the, cause of the deaths of all of these other men. Olivia sucks. She's a real asshole. She's a bigger asshole than all the men.
She got all her fellow kid friends to kill animals, we find out. Yeah.
Yeah, she sucks. What's her problem?
But anyway, this ending is basically like Julia's facing off literally with Olivia. They have a stare off. And then Julia
picks up the little toy.
Yeah, picks up a little toy and cuts herself with it, or
I guess. It's so not clear.
And then she bleeds to death.
Yeah, she's a gash on her neck.
Great.
The end.
All right. Should we move on to our other section, next section here, Tim?
Sure.
All right. Here we go. What worked?
What worked? What worked for you? What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
You looking at me, Tim?
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to respect any actor who, anytime this happens, it's why even if it's like a low rent slasher, it's when someone brings their A game, it's just like, I appreciate it so much. It seems like, Mia Farrow is approaching this as it just could have been another Rosemary's Baby, in her performance. I think is really incredible. Yeah. Like there's moments in this movie where it's like, if you imagine writing it, you're just kind of like, oh God, sounds so just like how could you pull it off? This doesn't have to be so intense, or like the kind of lines that you could see people write as throwaway lines because, oh, she's freaking out. And then so they just write like, like the lines in this one, as an example, what I'm getting at, she says, forgive me, I'm so sorry. You know, she has one of those moments earlier on. And she sells it like 110%. It's really heart-wrenching, the performance that she gives. And it's a sort of consistent throughout. You feel her grief. She just carries it the whole time. And she's like fascinating to look at. Like she just has one of those like sets of eyes. It's just takes it all in a way that's really fun to watch. So, I mean, if you've seen Rosemary's Baby, which we assume and hope you have, it's just like that, but without the story to support it. Anyway, you know,
it's that, but bad.
Yeah, I don't need to go on to elucidate how good of an actor she is.
Yeah, no, I agree. She's good. I mean, I think that if I were being really nitpicky, I would say that her the good components of her performance are undercut only by the fact that it is all on this one frequency. There's not a whole lot of variation in her character.
Yeah.
So whatever. I think that's more of a director's issue than a performance issue. She's doing it. She's going for it, and good job. Like, you know, beyond her, it's tough.
I've got some little specifics. I think
there are like 3 moments for me where I kind of perked up and was like, oh, cool.
Was one of them when when the antique stealer friend dies in the bathtub?
Yes. I mean, really, it's just the 4 deaths.
Yeah.
You know, I they're fun. They're funny.
But why that bathtub death stood out to me, though, it was really incredible because we're so accustomed to like the electronic device falling into the bathtub and they go blah, 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 and they're like this crazy electric, you know. But this one
just sort of freezes.
It was hauntingly realistic. It was disturbingly realistic. There's some adverbs for you, Tim. Where it's like the lamp falls in and it just sort of like happens so quick. It just felt real and in real time. And then once it falls in, it's not like he's instantly dead. It's not like, as I said, there's a huge crazy shock and then it's just like he goes for it a little bit, but kind of gets frozen and then which is out.
I believe fairly accurate.
Yeah, that's it. It's just kind of like, and that. I don't know. I thought that was really effective. It was just like, oh my God, that looked like a real electrocution we just watched.
So when I was a teenager, basically, late teenager, I trained as a fireman in their it was called Fire Explorers. It was like a offshoot of the Boy Scouts. And essentially it's a training program so that when you want to get into being a volunteer firefighter or go to the academy or whatever, that you have this training already. And one of the things that I always remember is when you do, they teach you search and rescue techniques. And the big thing that they emphasize is because you can't see anything, presumably, if it's a house full of smoke that you're going into, you always put your hand, you feel for things with the back of your hand. And the reason being is that if there's an exposed wire and you're using your palm and you touch it, your muscles contract because of the electricity, right? And your hand would close around the exposed wire and then you're fucked because you're holding on to it. Whereas if you're using the back of your hand, when your muscles contract, your hand contracts away from the thing that it's touching. And I mean, it's like, so they ingrained that so much into your brain that it makes total sense, this death, how it goes, right? He instinctually grabs at the thing, but at the moment of grabbing it, it's hitting the water and he just sort of freezes because everything clenches up and he can't move and then he dies of the electrical shock, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, wow, they looked into this.
I appreciate too. There wasn't it felt realistic in a sense I related to, you don't see in a lot of horror movies. It feels like horror movies, they treat all people as having big reactions. Like, even in the name of death and crazy things happening, I get it. But like, even then, like, I'm not someone who like, I don't know. I just kind of like, I'll be freaked out, obviously, but I don't know. I see it more like him. He doesn't go, ah! You know, when the lamp falls in. He just kind of goes like, whoa, shoot. You know, he just kind of like,
Yeah.
That's it. That struck me not, yeah. So in addition to the electrocution itself, his reaction struck me as realistic.
Okay, so that one was fun. The dude who was one of the kids. I mean, so there's two dudes who were kids that Julia meets that were a part of the killing of Olivia. One of them's an artist, I guess, and the other is I don't know, a drunk. And so the drunk, after they've had their conversation, he's coming out with a bunch of bottles, I guess his empties, and he's walking down the stairs, and a bottle mysteriously, ghostly, rolls under his foot on the stairs, and he steps on it, and he trips, and he falls over the banister to his death. I like that. It was fine. It was kind of funny. You know, I was like, at least something's happening. All right,
I don't have to resort to scratching the bottom of the barrel here. There were some things I did really like in it. Something that like,
you didn't like when the lady fell down the stairs?
I did. Those actually weren't those weren't the other highlights I had. There's some other things I got. The deaths, just because I was this people falling at a certain point, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, 3 of the 5 deaths are just people falling over.
Yeah, it's just like, whatever. I don't know. So I don't have those in what worked for me. Just the bathtub death I had.
That's all I got.
Well, a scene that really gets to me, because this gets to me in real life too, I guess, was when she's at the park and she's having the vision of the girl, and she goes over and like in a daze finds and picks up this dead turtle that's been cut up.
Yeah.
And then so this woman in the park, British lady, she's like, you know, oh my God, are you a crazy person or something?
What are you, demented?
Yeah. And, you know, she's just like, oh no, I'm, just that kind of like leaving zero room for doubt, accusation, just like, it's just the thing that just gets me to my core, like more than anything, just like false accusations in that sense, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, it bugged me in that sense, but I realized of an effective way, this being a horror movie that wants to push those buttons and just make me like, oh, poor Mia Farrow. Like, she's just like getting accused of killing this turtle. And just after everything she went through, like, and has been going through, I was just like feeling that. I thought the movie started off strong, actually, and then was just a disappointment from there on out. But the death of the daughter at the beginning, I thought was directed really well. That choking of where it's like, it's just kind of, you know, this whatever breakfast scene, family having their breakfast, and they're having, you know, a little conversation, but all the focus is just on Kate, the little girl, and the camera just kind of goes in on her, you know, isn't paying attention to what the dad and mother are saying, and just sort of like the camera lands on her in perfect timing, she starts choking, and it just felt like it just made it so the moment she started choking, it just really had an impact, like really felt it. And when I shouldn't.
Did you like their technique of holding her upside down?
I got it. Yeah. And like, I did, as just sort of like this parent's panic. Like, what the hell do you do?
I was like, whoa. Yeah. I guess that's sort of a logical instinct.
Yeah. Turn him upside down, hit him on the back, whatever.
Yeah.
So, promising intro. Put it that way. And then,
I felt that scene. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then she dies. I was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Here we go. Then we have, I thought that's the other, let's see, like toward the end, a couple great scenes. The very last one, we mentioned we were just kind of confused how it played out or whatever. But just as far as like I thought that was really good as far as just depicting a ghost and having like a ghost look right at us kind of thing. Just that back and forth reverse shot, like the way they had Olivia Ghost Girl lit, it was truly haunting.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. When you have a whole movie that's you think is a ghost movie that doesn't show any ghost, you know, it makes it when you see it at the way end just that much more effective. That was good. And then neat kind of seeing like the point of view reverse back at Mia Farrow, at Julia. Anyway, so I like, just as far as showing a possible supernatural element at the way end, I thought that did work. And this maybe people like it.
Are a couple, very sparing, but a couple shots that I just appreciated. Like they're pretty and compositionally cool. And one of them in particular is Mia Farrow is she's laying on the floor, like kind of with her head on her hands. And it's lit really cool. It's sort of she's kind of just existing in this like negative space. The lighting is just around her and like just the front of the carpet, and you know, right there where her hands are, and everything just spills away into darkness. And she's, you know, it's this sort of contemplative moment for her. It's really pretty. Like it could be a painting for sure. And I wish there was a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is more of that to some degree. But like, there are a couple moments that are cool. I think the ending has that vibe too. Like, especially her in the chair has that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, it's not totally void of some good stuff.
Well, I thought
it's just so sparing.
And we'll get to that. I thought though, that towards the end, we had this other scene with Heather Rudge, who's the mother who killed the daughter. And she gives what I thought was just this incredible monologue where Julia's is kind of going to her at first just for some, you know, searching for the mystery. You know, she's on her mystery quest. Truth. But then what she gets is not quite what she's expecting. It's a confessional and a kind of accusation against her of, you know, trying to play up her guilt too. But old lady Heather, she's God, she gives this model. It's like she says something like, I am the one who is dead. All is safe in being dead. And then goes into, have you ever seen evil? I have. You know, just stuff like that. I loved it. But to sell lines like that, just 100%. It's so good. I really loved that scene and her delivery and just going all out with the writing that they did. And I love that.
Well, I think it works partially because we've been set up to be like, oh, this old lady has lost her mind, so she's just spouting off nonsense, and it's like it's sort of like this weird reverse doorway in to her saying things that are really heightened language.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you actually listen to what she's saying, you're like, oh, wait a minute, she's actually saying something.
Yes.
And I think that's fun. That's a cool way to allow that kind of intense monologue-y, you know, almost theatrical dialogue. It's cool. It's a cool moment.
And it coming at the end, it's like we're getting some kind of climax finally here, you know, some kind of build to something. So it worked.
I honestly think that this story would be much, much better suited for a stage play. I think it has kind of the sparse, I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe why I think this.
Well, how about this? My last thing that has to do was the story here, but this is kind of a backhanded compliment too, or maybe as a way to transition into what did not work. But the story itself, I think, is really, really cool, and I didn't even realize it was the story when I was watching it. But it's this idea of woman wrestling with this horrible guilt, the worst kind imaginable. And anyone who stands in her way or doesn't believe her or, in any way kind of isn't helping her, stands in her way, they die, which then just kind of, feeds into that guilt even more, or is
it's
also
like a curse.
Yeah, and it's like an interesting balance of the fact though that they're standing in her way. It's like you can tell she has all this pent up anger along with her remorse and guilt. So it's almost like it's that weird wrestling between like her hating them, but also then just not wanting to hate them necessarily.
It's not a terrible theme, right? It's a metaphor for if you can't let go of grief, you leave a wake of sort of destruction behind you.
Yeah, because that it happens throughout, but I didn't really recognize the pattern till after the fact of like all these men who stand in her way or just anyone who questions her, they then die immediately after. Like, so that is happening in it. It's just kind of, we'll get into it, but yeah.
Well, it gets muddied by other things, so whatever.
Great.
We want to talk about them?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. But in itself, I think that is a cool story.
Yes, I think that, I agree that there are fields to be tilled. Is that how you say that?
Sure.
Probably not.
All right, then let's move on here. Next section, till some more fields in what did not work.
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
Crops to be harvested?
Sure. No, both work. Anyway, so exactly, like as cool of a story that is, I mean, is just evidence in how I put it. I didn't even realize it was the story till thinking about it afterwards. Like it's just sort of
that's a problem.
People were just kind of dying along the way, and like you said too, no ebb and flow. Like she is just, like there's no, when you compare it to Rosemary's Baby, that's easy to do here. There's nothing to give her. There's no turning points of any kind that I picked up on or whatever.
There's no reversals.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not like, oh my God, I got this idea. Could it be I don't want to look at this thing, but like I can't help but look. Oh, you know what? I'm wrong. This is bullshit. I need to calm down or whatever. Like, and then have the rug pulled out from under that, and then go on the ride again, and then have somebody like make you become introspective so that you doubt yourself. Like, there's none of this back and forth of like Rosemary's Baby. I mean, she is just constantly at the mercy of her own point of view of what's going on, and everybody else pulling the strings around her to kind of, pull her around the room. And so like that creates this spiraling, because you're always knocked off your pins, right? Like they're always wobbling in Rosemary's Baby. In this, it's just sort of like there's kind of just this direct pathway of her going, oh, I think a thing, let me look into it. Oh, I've learned a new thing, let me look into that. Oh, I've learned a new thing, let me look into that. Oh, I've learned a new thing. Okay, now I've come to this conclusion, the end. So it's too linear almost. It doesn't have, like you said, the ebb and flow. It's weird. It's boring, to be honest. And it doesn't allow her to go from grief to saying, you know what, enough of this grief. I need to like have some fortitude and actually do something about it or face it or whatever. Like she doesn't have any sort of back and forth within herself. It just makes it really one note, which sucks, because it would be awesome. It's when you have an actress who's that good, you want to see the sort of dichotomy of where that character is and watch them move through these different, not personalities, but different sort of moments within themselves. We don't get any of that. She's just sort of on this one track the whole time.
is it also hurt by, again, just the easy reference point of Rosemary's Baby? Like, there's no clear like question at play. You know, she's not like in Rosemary's Baby. It's, oh, am I, holding the son of the devil inside of me? But this, is it like she thinks there may be a ghost? Like, what is the big mystery?
Yeah, what is the big mystery?
Like, what is the mystery she's following?
It's so confusing because there's nothing to hang our hats on, right? Yeah. So if we just sort of follow along what the movie is telling us, the first thing is, really, I think this place might be haunted. But immediately, that idea is dismissed by her saying, oh, I think Magnus is prowling around. And then we're like, okay, so let's make that discovery. But then that's immediately followed by, no, let's have a seance. Which is it? Like, she has no clear point of view in this movie. That's a huge problem. It's totally muddied. It's back and forth. Like, we never really, like, she doesn't fight for any certain idea. She's very wishy-washy in her kind of pursuit of this until kind of later when she goes, oh, I've learned some stuff. I think it may be this. But even then, it's just, I don't know. I just had a really hard time getting on board with any of the ideas that are sort of like that her character is trying to follow up with.
The experience of watching it was like, the beginning, it felt like, okay, this is all, solid setup or whatever. But you're right, like right around there, it just felt like the movie never started. It just felt like it was all this elongated setup going in different directions with nothing ever actually congealing to get us off into the races.
Here's a good example of it. Just it is incomplete. It falls apart. Magnus shows up. Prowls around. So we go, oh, he actually is doing this, maybe. Cool. But that doesn't lead to any discovery. It just leads to him getting killed in the basement. And then that's it. She never finds his body. His body's down there for like another hour of the movie. Maybe right. Not 45 minutes. Never comes back around. We never learned, like, it's not a discovery. It's not like an oh shit moment. There's nothing. He's just out of the movie.
Yeah. I've forgotten about that body.
What are we what the fuck? It's not like there's not like a cop who shows up and says, or a detective, and starts saying, hey, your husband's missing. Can we look in your house?
Right.
Hey, we spoke with this guy. He was a little freaked out, this art dealer guy. He was a little freaked out because he says that you accosted him in his gallery. And when we asked him what you wanted to know, he told us that he had given you info about this other dude. That other dude is now dead. You're the connecting thread to that. What's going on? Are you like, oh shit, we just found your husband's body in your basement. Are you like a killer?
Yeah, there was
people around you keep dying. Maybe that, like, there's no antagonist in this movie.
Right. I was just going to put that as there's no outside pressure. Like, there's little glimmers of it with Magnus trying to, just sort of like, we need to set Julia up with the traditional, put her, through the psychiatric ward, But that doesn't really, that's not very pressing at a certain point either.
Well, exactly. If you're going to set that up, make that threat become more and more and more in like apparent or like bigger and bigger. Have there be a timeline or a ticking clock that's going to be like, oh shit, if I stay on this path, I'm going to get put away. Like, that's actual conflict. Should I continue down this pathway if the risk, does the reward outweigh the risk of maybe me getting institutionalized? But there's none of that. There's no pressure. There's no like, she's just Lottie fucking dying around and finding stuff out, and people are dying behind her, and she's like, oh, well.
But it's a weird trick because she is just Lottie dying around, but it's like we're tricked into thinking there's more going on because she is just carrying this guilt and remorse throughout the whole thing. Like it makes it feel like there's more happening than there actually is, because at least... You know, she's clearly troubled the whole time, but it doesn't mean there's any additional pressure coming down on her.
I think, you know, from a really basic character arc standpoint, it's missing a pretty common, I guess, trope, if you want, of like, if you have a protagonist who's decided that a thing is a thing, and that's their aim, that's their goal. It helps about 2/3 of the way through the story to have something happen that changes their outlook. Most of the time, it's something that says, it forces them to sort of look inside themselves and say, I'm wrong. I need to, you know, change tact. And often that means give up. And then something happens that makes them, you know, re-up on their, you know, their pursuit of whatever their goal is. But they do it through a new lens because they've had this epiphany moment, whatever. There's just none of that with her. Like, there's not, like, she needed to go be institutionalized or something so that she could go, oh shit, maybe I am crazy. And we would feel tragically, you know, for her, because we go, shit, no, you're not. Like, this stuff is actually happening. What are you going to do about it? And then you get to have a third act where she actually has to overcome something.
Or if the whole thing is about she's indirectly leading to these people's deaths, then shouldn't the consequences of their deaths be encroaching on her rather than just this kind of passing guilt?
Or if her whole thing is guilt and she needs to come to terms with the guilt and grief over her daughter's death, she should come to a realization that guilt and grief has led to the deaths of other people she cares about. And then she actually has to cope with that she is now, through her guilt and grief, the cause of other death.
Yeah, that's why you'd think there'd be that one moment where, you know, the second time it happened, she goes, no, not another one, you know, not saying that, but like that moment, that's why I didn't even realize it was the story till after the fact, thinking about it. It was, yeah.
Everybody dies and she doesn't know about any of them.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, how about the soundtrack, Tim?
I mean, it's a thing.
It is what it is. Sure.
I like it because it's ridiculous and it's of this era, but does it work? No.
Great. I can't say it any better. So just wanted to bring that up though.
Yeah. I mean, it's super synthy.
I don't think we need to go on unless you have any other lessons at play or
no, I mean, no, it's a dud, unfortunately. And for all these reasons that we're talking about is that it's not that there isn't something to go on. I think there's a lot to go on. And maybe the novel is really good and like dives into these other components. But unfortunately, the movie just kind of dances on the surface of I think maybe what the deeper story is in the novel, and it never really gets anywhere. So bummer.
Yeah, kind of not too different from what's the other one we watched recently? Oh, The Sentinel from the same year.
Yeah, but at least The Sentinel had a finale.
I enjoyed The Sentinel way more, yeah. And some ebb and flow to characters, and that's a little more.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Definitely.
Great, well then let's just move on for our next
Okay.
section. Things of note.
Things of note! This should be interesting.
Well, for the little that that worked, and for the not much either that we had to say that did not work, even though it was a lot, I think I had one of the biggest noteworthy things. I had taken a moment that just struck me in that thing of notey place so hard, Tim.
Oh, okay.
Mia Farrow.
I've heard of her.
In a moment in this, she's, God, I mean, just like the rest of it, I don't know what was going on. I forget at the time. It's just all her walking around. Anyways, we just talked about it. But she surprises someone in a celebratory fashion, and rather than saying ta-da, she says ta-dum.
What?
It really...
What is that?
I thought it was incredible. I thought I never knew there was another take on the way to say ta-da. I had only ever heard
Ta-dum.
it before. Yes! Just like that.
Oh, that is odd, isn't it?
Talk about, I mean, this is, I guess for me, this is how you know me, that was extremely interesting and noteworthy. Mia Farrow, ta-dum. She knows.
Well, I'm gonna do a little research here.
In her world, it's ta-dum. At least in my world, it's always been ta-da. What do you think, listeners? Have you heard ta-dum? Do you say ta-dum? Is this did this was no longer in vogue as of the late 70s? Did it switch to ta-da at a certain point?
Well, Merriam-Webster does not include dumb in their definition or etymology, so I don't know. It's may just be a quirk of Mia Farrow,
which I just love her all that much for it. Then
right, she's like, this movie is to dumb. Why am I here?
Ha ha ha! Great. Well, what about other things of note? Did you have anything?
Man, not really.
Just the stuff we've already said was interesting. How it's not widely released right now. Let's see, re-released in VHS in 1988 by, funny enough, Magnum Entertainment. It's kind of interesting. Magnus,
I mean, we kind of
Magnus,
covered the
and Magnum
weird stuff. Yeah, the title stuff and the release stuff and
all super British names.
Yeah. No, I can't say that I have anything. Yeah, I guess I didn't really feel like this was the ending, but in the Wikipedia plot, it does say that the sharp edges of the toy are what slashes her throat. I guess. I don't know.
I forgot we when we turned the corner into episode 100 territory, Tim, we put out there, let's make sure to mention indelible moments and things of note from here on out.
The symbol clown toy thing, traditionally I think we in the States are used to seeing this as like the monkey version of this toy. But this one's a clown, and the first time we see it, it's freaky. I liked it.
Great. So
honestly, of all the things, that's the thing I'll remember from this movie is that toy.
For me, it's the bathtub death and ta-dum.
Yeah.
And again, credit where credit is due. Creepy ghost girl Olivia at the way end.
Yeah. I liked all the characters at the seance.
Yeah.
Like their faces.
Yeah.
Interesting faces.
Great. Well, Tim, I feel like that's it then for Full Circle,
really
The Haunting of
we
Julia.
We don't need to belabor this one.
Great. All right. In that case, then we move on to see if we had any recommendations. Tim, what have you been reading, watching, listening to out of all those things? Is there anything you'd like to recommend dead?
On my flight back home, I watched a movie on, I think it was on Prime. I'm pretty sure it was on Prime, called Open 24 Hours. It's a horror movie. It's fun. It's not great, but it's a good like slashery kind of one location in the middle of nowhere, dark, creepy. Is the girl, the final girl, is she crazy or is this really happening kind of thing? It's pretty fun. I was pleasantly surprised because it was a total, shot in the dark. I was like, who knows if this will be worthwhile? Let me just do it because I'm on a plane. And I liked it.
Glad it helped your flight go by that much faster.
It did, because I don't like flying. And I also don't like flying during a pandemic. And I also don't like being in the middle seat. And all of those things were happening at once.
Oh, you had people next to you?
Yeah, man, it sucked. Now, but having said that, I got my first shot of the vaccine yesterday. So, that's good.
You're hoping it catches up in time for all their disease.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Great. Well,
yeah,
I revisited one I hadn't seen. I've been watching a lot of stuff, but one I had revisited, I hadn't seen in a long, long time, which I'm going to recommend today. It was from 1969, Easy Rider. It had been forever, man. Yeah. But I've been kind of liking to watch movies from that era, just watching some 60s movies I haven't seen. Dennis Hopper, forgetting it was directed by him. This was hot off watching Super Mario Brothers again. I was, if anyone's interested, I was on our friends over at Retro Reviews podcast. They had me on to talk about one of my favorite films, the Super Mario Brothers movie. So check that out, Retro Reviews.
The idea that we live in a weird world. Again, I'm just going to say, we live in an extremely strange world. The idea that Easy Rider and the Super Mario Brothers movie are connected in some way.
Dennis Hopper.
Is so trippy to me. It just is, what the fuck?
Right?
But great, whatever.
Anyway,
I watched the first 10 minutes of Speed the other day. That's got Dennis Hopper in it.
Speed is so good. I love Speed.
It's so ridiculous. This is so tangential, but whatever. It's the opening credits of Speed
dun, 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 dun,
are
dun.
just a going
inside of an
down
elevator,
an elevator shaft, right? And they show the credits. Every new credit, every name that comes up is every other floor. Like the screen gets wiped with like an I-beam, and it's a new floor. And it goes on and on. It's like 50 floors in this building of the same thing. And what I realized really like immediately was they're just repeating the same floor. Right? They're just wiping it, and then it's just the same floor over and over. It's not like they actually went down an elevator shaft.
You don't know that.
Oh, I think I know. It is hilariously long and awkward. But yeah, the movie's fun. It's ridiculous.
I think it's neither hilarious nor awkward. I think it's awesome, just like the rest of that movie. So there you go. But we're here talking about Easy Rider right now, Tim. Dennis Hopper, The Love Spread, which, I think it was just one of those films where, you get something more watching it when you're not in college or whatever. A little.
Oh, yeah.
Lived a little longer definitely helps. And just
I
like
that
this,
movie. I haven't watched it in a long time.
It was just easy just to kind of think of it in my head. Oh, the theme song, Easy Rider, or that song, and it's okay, I get it. Then they're on motorcycles, but like the rest of the soundtrack that you kind of forget about, like when that Hendrix song comes on, it's just like just a cool montage. It's so good. So if it's been a while or if you haven't seen it, watch it and watch it loud. It's great. Easy Rider.
I might have to revisit that. It's been many years.
Well,
probably like 20 years.
I feel like this is always the way to get you to not watch it, but I have the Blu-ray right here if you want to borrow it.
Fair enough.
I'd love to lend it to you.
Cool.
Great.
Well,
next week's film.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Whose turn is it?
Who pulled full circle?
I feel like you did.
Great. Let's just
Did you?
reset it anyway and then just go with you.
I'm pretty sure you did. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pull. Pull. This one. Oops, I dropped it. Oh, it's a small one. It's called Motel Hell.
Motel Hell. All right.
From 1980.
Cool. I've seen it at some point, but it's been a while. I know this one has a bit of a cult following.
Sweet.
Great. I feel like there's some special release it's gotten recently or something. Yeah, it definitely has had a second life. Motel Hell. Well, we hope you can join us next week for Motel Hell. Either way, thanks for being here. And our big ask is, do tell a friend. Should you think they'd like to join us?
Yes, do.
Great. Well, hey, in closing again, I'll say it. Let's just come full circle and say thanks for listening.
How dare you? We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.